question, Harry. You said based on the diet needs, partly on your genetics, but every time I see recommendations for diet based on genetics, they are based on epidemiology or rat studies. Valid? No. That's not the stuff that I'm talking about. Epidemiology is junk. Completely and utter junk. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about specific pathways that are affecting enzymatic pathways. So we're talking about absolutely determined enzymatic mechanistic studies. That's where they're looking at an enzyme and that enzyme being downregulated or upregulated or whatever in a specific ethnic group or group of people that have got this distinct type and that effect. Epidemiology does not tell you any of that. Complete and utter useless. And a rat does not have the same physiology in terms of the way it deals with macronutrients to be able to get any idea of what foods would work in a human. No, we're talking about genetics like the methylation pathways, MTHFR. Okay, I've done a video, the first video that it was methylation part 1, which is a very old video, one of my earliest videos, and I cover how riboflavin corrects that enzymatic pathway. I have an MTHFR, a methylation problem, or I have the genetics. Now, if I eat enough riboflavin, I correct that and I bring it back to normal. Homocysteine goes down. So it corrects that whole thing. So this is what I'm talking about. People that have got the ability to can't convert carotenoids, and so actually need retinol. Carotenoids don't work. So if you get grass-finished animal foods, the carotenoids in the fat of the grass-finished animal, those ones can be converted by most people into vitamin A. But on the other hand, if you don't have that ability to convert very well, like so many of the Irish, well, then you have to eat retinol to get the amount you require for your body. That's the sort of stuff we're saying. Specific genetics that are racially based, that specific groups, the Hoppler groups I've talked about. Every single ethnic group has a Hoppler group where people that have lived together share a lot of common genes and also certain genetic, that affect the way they deal with certain dietary things. A bit like, choline requirements among Han Chinese, very low. 76% of them can endogenously produce it. Even if they don't consume any eggs, any liver, any animal foods, they can, they will require animal foods for other things. But even if they will be able to produce a certain level endogenously, where I can't. I'm at the other extreme end of that sort of situation. That's what I'm talking about. When I say genetics and diet, I'm talking about specific genetics that affect the micronutrients that one requires, not macronutrients. Well, obviously you need certain macronutrients of certain animals or not certain species sources of nutrients to basically get those micronutrients you require. So we're talking about here more or less specific pathways, enzymatic pathways that require specific amounts of cofactors that you either can't synthesize and you need to get from the diet, or you need extra because your ancestors consumed too much of that. That's what I'm talking about. So yeah. So there's that specific thing. And we're not talking about massive amounts. We're just talking about getting sufficient. I'm not into mega dosing anything. If you get enough from the diet, it corrects it. So if you have that genetic SNP like I have, I eat enough milk, milk basically a big glass of milk, 16 ounce, will give me all my riboflavin for the day. If I add meat in that, I'll get heaps. It's only if you're on a low-fat, low-meat, animal-based diet, that's when you can get, which I was on a more low-fat diet in the past, that was a problem for my methylation. Now that I'm eating more animal products, it's not a problem. So I don't need to supplement folate. I don't need to supplement B6. I don't need to supplement B12. I just need to get enough of those nutrients that anybody else would require, what their requirements are of everyone else. But I do need more riboflavin than them because that enzyme doesn't work as well. So even if I give it the same amount of B12, the same amount of folate, and the same amount of B6, it still will not work as well in me compared to somebody else that eats exactly the same amount. So you get the maximum requirement, all the other cofactors in that enzyme, but it needs one additional in there, and that's riboflavin. So it needs more riboflavin than the other people to work better, that enzyme. And then it works. So it's not a requirement. This is where everybody's got the methylation stuff wrong. That's why I've said people that supplement folate end up causing themselves a B12 deficiency because they end up depleting from excess folate, and vice versa. You know, it's not a deficiency in folate. It's not a deficiency in B12, and it's not a deficiency in B6. If you get enough of those, it works. Well, the missing in micronutrient that's required in greater amounts, that means double the RDI, so is riboflavin. I need more riboflavin than other people. And then those enzymes will work properly with the same amount of folate, B12, and B6 that everybody else gets. So for that enzyme to work properly, I just need more riboflavin. That's the missing link. That's what I showed in that research. It corrects immediately. So even if you give people more folate, this is what naturopaths do. They just pack in the folate, more and more folate, more and more B12 and all that. And it's not working. And they're going, what the, oh, you must need a mega dose. No, you fuckwit. You don't need a mega dose. You need to correct that enzymatic activity. You need to understand how that actually works, that enzyme. And the missing link for that enzyme to work properly is riboflavin. And it works then. And you don't need any more, just as much as everybody else gets. That's what we're talking about. Specific genetics that affect enzymatic pathways. Nothing to do with epidemiology, diet, macros, or whatever. It's nothing to do with macros. Carbs, fat, and protein. It has to do with the micronutrient cofactors that are basically providing the little keys to the enzymes. You've got an enzyme here. It's got little keys. You have to stick stuff, and then it works. That's the missing. And this is what the problem is. And this is why naturopaths have got no idea what they're doing. It's like there's just mega dose, vitamins and hope for the best. The other side, the MDs are mega dose. Just give them drugs and let's try to just manage the situation. Where if you understood the physiology, you can correct it. How can I fucking work it out and they can't? What is wrong with them? What sort of reductionist bullshit education do they get? That's the problem. See, I come from an engineering background, and engineers need to go back to first principle. They look at how systems work. All the little, if you've got a device that stops working, why is it not stop working? What component isn't working properly and why? How's it been what's the tolerance? How's it been produced? You try and work out the details. This is what you have to do in physiology. You have to work out what are all the stuff that work and how do they work and what do they need to work properly. Once you do that, you can come up with solutions. Then you end up coming up with a species appropriate diet. But if you But if you basically don't want to find that, and obviously the food industry and the big pharma, they definitely don't want you to find out that information. So they need to confuse you with reductionist bullshit. That's what they do. It's annoying, but that's what they do.